Hello, I am Jayanto Chatterjee from IIT Kanpur, and we are discussing managing services and the contemporary issues. Yesterday we were discussing about some unique challenges created in the service business domain due to the perishable nature of service and due to inseparable nature of service. Both terminologies have been well explained in the previous sessions. So this is the second part of that same unique challenge set 2, and we start with the fact of life. We were discussing about how in service we can manage capacity and manage demand by creating buffers between the service provider and the service consumer by creating waiting lines, queues, appointments, reservations. Of these techniques that are deployed, nobody likes the waiting line. And interestingly, while you might like to wait for buying the latest, your most favorite electronic gadget, be it a new type of watch or new type of mobile phone, you would not like in service to wait for too long for paying your electric bill or for getting into the movie auditorium. So it has been researched and found that in the service context, people hate to wait. Now here are some pictures of waiting lines. Now you can see on top there are large number of people on the top right quadrant, and there are far lesser number of people in the queue on the top left quadrant, and these are some important techniques for queue management. And then there are queues shown on the lower right quadrant, and a very unique way of queue management is shown on the lower left. In fact, that is a picture of the famous queue complex. It is in fact called the queue complex at the Tirupati, the famous South Indian Tirupati temple, where millions of pilgrims congregate on certain days, and on the whole throughout the year they have huge flow of people. And this is an interesting service occasion of a particular type where good queuing theory concepts have been deployed. Good industrial engineering practices have been put in to manage the service at a higher level of pilgrim satisfaction, citizen satisfaction. And this is what we are going to study in this particular diagram, which is now in front of you. So as you can see here, the queue or the waiting line can be structured in different ways depending on the number of servers available. And you can easily see from these diagrams that simple management techniques can create a much better service level. The first, of course, is that if you can increase the number of servers. So as you can see in the third line, parallel lines to multiple servers, the queue length can be significantly brought down. we will discuss perhaps this same queue management system later on when we come to the closing stage of this course, where we can mathematically show the significant reduction in queue length that can be achieved with simple addition of maybe 1 or 2 servers. But you will observe, even pictorially or from your own experience, that more the number of servers, shorter will be the queue length. You can also actually manage the queue by creating here, for example, take a number. You are familiar at banks or many other places where there are fixed number of servers and there is only one person in front of the server, because the queue is buffered elsewhere. Of course, here the advantage is that a person is not locked in as he or she is in a waiting line, because that person has a number and knows the number being served at this moment, and therefore can estimate that his or her turn will come half an hour later and can utilize that time to do something else. So, if the bank is located in a shopping complex, the person may go for some shopping activities and come back for his or her turn. And again, the line itself can be constructed that it can be like as we do when we do airline check-in, that we input line is the same, but there are multiple servers. This has its own challenges and its own advantages, and we will discuss it a little bit more later on when we discuss the queuing. At this moment, we are basically looking at some consumer behavioral aspects in waiting line and how that needs to be managed, because right at this moment we are looking at in this week the unique characteristics of services and the service consumers' engagement with the service processes and their feelings and thoughts and perceptions, and how those need to be managed for a better customer satisfaction level, better service delivery level. Now, obviously service lines are symptoms, waiting lines are symptoms arising from the mismatch between the capacity, which is relatively fixed, and variability of service demand. We have seen in the last lecture how we can create some flexibility in the capacity, but that has limitation. There are some, to some extent it can be done. That is why we have to often manage variable capacity and demand management at the same time. Before we move to the customer psychology in the queue or waiting line, consumer behavior in the waiting line, it is important to note that queues can be physical, but queues can also be geographical dispersed, and there is a or it can be dispersed in time and space, and thereby actually a much higher level of satisfaction can be achieved. In the I was just now showing you the famous queue complex of TTD, and I will just come to it that what consumer psychology aspect it takes care of. But even the queue, before the queue enters the temple premises, the temple administration have done another ingenious thing, that as soon as the pilgrims arrive at the Tirupati station, and even before they climb the hill to go to the Tirumala temple complex, they are given a wristband with a particular barcode imprint and an estimate when they should arrive at the queue complex door and how long it will take them to offer their prayers to the deity. So, you may arrive at day x, you will know that in x plus 1, that means you are on Wednesday, you will know that Thursday morning 8 a.m. will be the time when you should be there. So, you have the whole of Thursday free and you have time free before the queue, you are not unnecessarily waiting, you can do other things productive. So, there are other tourist attractions created around the Tirumala Tirupati Devasthanam. So, the queue is diverted to various other facilities and again brought back with this management of the waiting line, estimation of how long it will take, and so arrival of pilgrims and departure of pilgrims are matched. So, pilgrims know as soon as they arrive at the station that when they should go to the temple, they know how long it will approximately take them to go into the inner sanctum, and thereby a higher level of satisfaction is created, because unoccupied time is boring and it feels longer. So, occupied time appears to be shorter. That is why there are televisions showing regular programs at boarding gate of airports, where typically people have to wait for half an hour to 1 hour. Sometimes the flights may be delayed, but the TV shows keep people engaged, so that occupied customers feel better. Obviously, if you are in a group, you have your own discussions going on, so it is much better than a solo wait. It has been observed that even if you just put a mirror where people wait to in queue to get into the elevator, people look into the mirror and feel, adjust their dresses, etc. That keeps them occupied and that queue is better managed. Obviously, comfortable waits are better than uncomfortable waits, and you can actually this in process wait is better than out of process wait. So, people even before they get to the Tirupati temple, they are in the queue complex. So, they feel they are in the process. There are different holding rooms in this picture as you see. So, people are in the process, they are going around this queue complex, they feel they are approaching the inner sanctum, and different activities are going on in these holding rooms, and people actually go from one room to the other room. There is a sense of movement, the line is moving, the different activities are taking place, people are happier. Similarly, explained waits are better than unexplained waits. If people are anxious that the flight is getting delayed and the pilot makes some announcement, or the pilot even before people express their anxiety talks about alternate flights that people can take off, or the airline arrangements that are being made to put the passengers from one flight to the other flight, this flow of information reduces anxiety. Or when people are waiting for long time between flights, the so called layoff time, layover time, you can occupy them through value added activities like a spa or a haircut salon and so on. So, these are important understanding through various research. Some of these sources are mentioned here, and we get to know how to manage the waiting line. Similarly, there are reservations. Reservations are again very necessary, somewhat challenging for the customers, but at least it saves customers from waiting unoccupied, and it also helps us to manage the demand, and in some way the reservation system allows us to move peak demand to a lean demand period. And we can also actually give incentives in the reservation system so that this adjustment between the peak period and the lean period can be done better. In the reservation system, of course, the staff performance, the user friendliness, the politeness, the responsiveness are very important to make the reservation system successful. In some cases we can use self-service, like for example in the banks, often the queue management system, the reservation system is that you take a token from a machine and you look at the screen and see which number is now getting served, and you know the gap between estimated gap. Sometimes the screens will show that current average service time per bank teller is 9 minutes. So if your number is 32 and you see that on the board number 11 is getting served, so you know that this gap of 21 more people waiting and into average 9 minutes. So you know about, you can easily get something done outside, go away for an hour, and you will not miss your turn. So creating good technological support, self-service technologies, and training people with the understanding of the queue psychologies like this, you can manage the waiting time and reservation system much better. This is a little more detailed slide, and we will actually look into each one of these segments that as we tackle these various issues more in detail later on. But the key point here is that good data collection, knowing the demand pattern over time, over a long period of time, creating good mathematical models that to what extent those demand patterns can be adjusted, knowing the result of different incentives that have been provided to people before and how it was successful in shifting demand from peak to trough, looking at various technology trends and to see how the service itself can be transformed. For example, the discussion that we had, how sports events have been hugely expanded in terms of audience by use of television transmission and internet technologies, etc. So we will have to see these things in more detail, but to conclude our this particular set of session is that at any moment in time a fixed capacity service may face excess demand. There are different types of demand variations. We have to balance both demand and capacity. Capacity can be managed through stretching or shrinking capacity levels, adjusting capacity to match demand, or creating flexible capacity by engineering, and demand can be managed through analysis of patterns, through marketing strategies, by providing incentives and so on. And waiting line and reservation systems are universal, but we can manage the psychology of the waiting lines better once we understand the problems and good research solutions that are already available. Thank you.